Hey, what's up guys? It's Metal, Zara, and WoW, and I've been playing my Monk a little bit lately. So here is a 16 PUG on my Brewmaster. I am really rusty on this character, so I'm 216 eye level, which isn't bad, but I don't have a blood spattered scale, which is bad because WoW is silly. So since I don't have a blood spattered scale, that is like a rather large defensive loss. So I tell everybody, as usual, to line of sight behind the pillar on this pole. And one of the things about my Monk that sucks the most, so I put my teleport thing back there, if memory serves. I'm going to grab the Goliath too, because we have 2 Shaman, and 1 Shaman is enough to permanently interrupt the Forsworn Goliath. So even though this pull can be a little spicy sometimes, and it will be extra spicy because my Monk is under-geared, having just 1 Shaman that knows that they can just always be the one to interrupt the Goliath makes it just infinitely easier. But what sucks about my Monk is that I just don't deal the damage. I'm Night Fae, so you can see here, which is pretty subpar. Pretty much you'd always want to be Necrolord or Kyrian as a Monk at this point. Night Fae is like fine. It's not as bad as say like Venthyr for Monk, but it's pretty bad. And so I just have some threat issues since we have no misdirect and a warrior who does some pretty good damage. And then, spoiler alert, this run is super silly because this Monk, who's good, I had just done the last key before this, we +2 to 14 to make this 16. This Monk DCs for like literally half the run. So that also makes things kind of spicy. So, and then Quaking makes this line of sight super annoying. You can see the Monk there running in place. I think he's already DC'd. So we do this entire pull as well as like almost the first half of the dungeon. Maybe more, I don't remember. No, it's right about the first half of the dungeon without him. So this gets a little spicy. So I've done like some damage on the way in, but I'm really low already, and they're still not quite stacked up as neatly as I'd like. Some of that's probably because of Quaking and people running out and forcing that. So this is a great strat that I like, but Quaking does kind of fuck a little bit, and I wonder if next time I should have people lost on either side. It's kind of hard to say for sure. But anyway, I eventually get aggro after I think, yeah, the healer and the warrior die. So that's pretty spicy, and that's just me. I don't know, one of the things about Monk that is Monk is weird. Brewmaster is, in my opinion, both one of the easiest and hardest tanks to play. They're really easy to play because Brewmaster does not have to think about when to use active mitigation. They literally have 100% uptime on their active mitigation. Brewmaster's like defensive play with regard to active mitigation is so brain dead that one of my friends who plays Monk, he's a great Brewmaster, but he didn't even know that Blackout Kick activated your active mitigation. Like, he didn't even know it worked. He doesn't even know when his active mitigation is up. So they're so easy. They're like face roll easy with that regard, right? Like every other tank, you have to kind of really know when your active mitigation is up, and you have to like play around that and be smart. It requires like a lot of thought on a lot of different pulls where like if you use your active mitigation at the wrong time, you get blown up and you die. But Monks are just always up. But then on the flip side, what is actually really hard to play about Monk is they're very buttons heavy, first of all. So you're constantly pressing a lot of different things. The rotation's really fun, but it's really I don't know, it's like demanding in terms of APM, way more than any tank I've played personally. The closest I've played would be Bear Druid in terms of the button pressing, and even Bear Druid is nowhere near as many buttons like per second or per minute or whatever as Monk is. It's like not even close. And so because of that, and because of the oddness of Cake Smash being a like thrown AoE, you're gonna see a lot of misplays for me, which there's one right there when they both died, where like maybe I throw a Cake Smash, right, and you target one person, but the Cake Smash goes to one enemy, and then it like blows up around that enemy. So if you pick the wrong enemy, your Cake Smash like won't hit a bunch of other enemies, and then suddenly you just have like no threat. And so what I probably should have done is just start off with spinning Crane Kick, but which you can see I'm doing now, but I think I didn't do it early enough to get enough threat initially, and they just ripped and died, which really sucks. So I'm gonna put these back together. Warrior reses, he's probably a little bit annoyed, but good on him for not getting too mad. And I think I actually kick this Rebellious Fist because the healer is spawning, and I don't know if he's gonna be in range. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'll just take it. And I think I probably overlap with the other Shaman. No, I got it, so who knows. Anyway, so I finally get my threat back, and then they do Bloodlust, and this is like, now we're back to like the standard pull pattern for this, where it's Bloodlust with everybody blowing their cooldowns. It's just that we are 1 DPS down. So this gets a little spicier than usual. So I've already activated Nuzao, who's like your main defensive that you use the most frequently as Monk, and I also overlapped Fortifying Brew because I'm just getting trucked, which is probably not smart, but I kind of just reactionarily was like, oh my god, I'm getting obliterated. I gotta blow all my coolies. So I blow everything, and that's, you can see here it's kind of bad because Nuzao is already dead and gone, and Fortifying Brew is about to wear off, and I still have 20 seconds for Celestial Brew. 22 seconds for Celestial Brew to come up. But that's alright. Monks are pretty silly, and I have a Shaman Healer. Shaman Healers are amazing. So I just teleport back behind the wall, do a little kiting. And one of these guys, unfortunately, gets stuck, and I think I tried to ring him at some point. But I'm too slow. Yeah. So I ringed him way too late. I could have ringed him, like, 5 seconds ago. But my brain is just, like, on overload right now. I have not done high keys on my Monk in a really, really long time. So, you know, it is what it is. But we recover pretty decently here after 2 or 3 deaths. And this part is hilarious. So this is one of the things I like least about Monk. So Monk is really mobile, but their mobility is really janky, right? So I think everything in WoW can be kind of janky sometimes, but like roll is not that much different than Demon Hunter Leap, except that because it's not a targeting reticle, you just go forward. So I'm gonna roll here and try and get out of the way to like get these mobs repositioned for Sanguine. And I just roll into the corner there. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And so now I'm really low. The mobs are still in Sanguine. I'm in Sanguine taking more damage. I'm about to die. I'm like freaking out. Oh my god, I just jump out of the way. I don't even roll. I don't even trust it. I'm like, I'm not going to do that again. But then the mobs stay in Sanguine longer than they needed to. And then finally, I'm going to have Celestial Brew come back up here. And then we're good. And you'll notice, I'll rewind here. So this little counter, this 5, this weak aura is one that, this is another thing I hate to call out my buddy T-Long, who's definitely a better Monk tank than I am by far, but this is another thing he didn't know about. A lot of Monks don't seem to know about it, and I actually don't blame them because Blizzard did a really poor job of explaining how this works based on the tooltip. But what this is the counter for the buff that I get for purifying stagger off of myself. And so the way that the tooltip reads is that basically it's like you get a bigger Celestial Brew shield based on the last thing that you purified. That's what the tooltip says. But that's actually bullshit. That's not how it works at all. It's not based on what you just purified at all. What it is that anytime you purify, if you purify when you're in green stagger, you get 1 stack of this buff. If you purify in yellow stagger, you get 2 stacks of this buff. And if you purify in red stagger, you get 3 stacks of this buff. And that buff has a duration, and it has a maximum stack of 10. And so you really want to be aware of how many stacks of that you have, as well as when it's going to run out. Because there are times when maybe you don't need to purify, like maybe you're in green stagger and you don't need to purify, but you have 9 stacks. You don't want to lose that and reset back to 1, because then your Celestial Brew shield will be really tiny. So this little circle is what tracks the timer. You'll see it count down when it gets close to going away, and then the number obviously is the number of stacks. So at 10 stacks there, that's the biggest shield you can get. I'll put it on a second here. And that's huge. That's as big as like a fully done blood spattered scale almost. And it eats all 10 of those stacks. So that's something like as a Monk, I think a lot of, especially new Monk players don't know. And like I said, that's just because Blizzard's tooltip is bad. It just doesn't make sense. Healer dies there because we didn't get an interrupt, I think, on Burden of Sins. And he either didn't cleanse himself or didn't have a cleanse due to it being on cooldown from previously. Yeah, and then I'm telling the group, I'm like, man, I freaking rolled into a wall. I'm so stupid. I felt so dumb when I rolled into that wall. Monk mobility is just, it's just jank. Like, even compared to, like, Paladin, like, so, like, hypothetically, if I was on my Paladin horse and I ran into the wall, I would just be like, oh, I'm in the wall. And then I would turn, and I'd still be on the horse, and I'd be able to, like, move. But if you roll into a wall as a Monk, you just, like, sit there in a ball, and it's freaking awful. So this is where I realized, since AFK, because he's done 0 damage this entire time, so that pull would have been far faster if we had the 3rd DPS. That's all right, we're going to proceed forward. And I think I'm going to skip around on this one just so it doesn't take so long. Because I've already done a couple Spires videos on my channel. So, you know, we kill these guys, beep, bop, boop, 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 things normal. I'm going to say CC the right mob, we fly over, and I start this pull by CCing the mob on the right. And I'm a little nervous here. This is one of the things about Monk that I'm least comfortable with. It's also something, again, if you haven't played a Brewmaster before, I think it's exactly what I was saying at the start of this video. Brewmaster is really hard and really easy, and I think that makes them like a really uniquely good tank for people who maybe have tried tanking and haven't found a fit, like they didn't like the way it felt. If you tried it and you weren't a Brewmaster, maybe try it on a Brewmaster, because the Brewmaster is really unique, and there are some people that just aren't going to like it at all. Honestly, it's not like my favorite tank, but I do think they're really fun. And then there's some people I think who maybe would hate other tanks that will actually like Brewmaster, and the reason for that is that they don't really have a lot of like significant cooldowns to rotate through, right? They basically have two major cooldowns. One is Fortifying Brew, which is a 7-minute cooldown, and one is Nuzao, or Dave, I like to call him, the Ox, and that's a 3-minute cooldown. And Fortifying Brew resets with your brew resets, so even though it's a 7-minute cooldown, it effectively works out to be, I don't know, probably about half that. But most of the time you're just dealing with Stagger and Celestial Brew, which is a 48-second cooldown with talents, and after resets, it's actually only a 24-second cooldown, maybe 30 seconds if you don't play optimally. So you could think of them as a class that has like no major cooldowns, and it's just every 30 seconds they've got a little minor cooldown in Celestial Brew that's really strong. And other than that, you're just managing your Stagger. So they're super fun. So standard pull here, just going to pull these guys back. Going to pull out Dave because he's back up and it's fortified weak. The other thing I'm really bad at personally, which you'll see in a second after we fight this boss, is dealing with bleeds on Brewmaster is so scary to me. I'm so used to playing Demon Hunter where I can just leap away and not care, and I have like so much self-healing, or Paladin where I have Bop to cleanse myself of bleeds, and like with Monk, you get Stagger and bleed on yourself, and it does so much damage. It's very scary. So your goal here right now on Sanguine Week is to pull the mobs that aren't the Goliath away from the Goliath when they die. And that's super important, because if the Goliath does the channel while he's in the Sanguine, he will heal to full and then sit in the Sanguine and take no damage. So I'm going to run away from these mobs, and it just happens to be that I need to re-CC this mob anyway, and so this is perfect timing. So I'm going to run away to spread them away from the Goliath. There's his channel. This is exactly what we don't want them in. I'm going to CC that mob. He's back to CC'd for a minute now with, I don't know, whatever it's called, incap. And then these guys get pulled away and killed away from the Goliath so that their puddle is not on him while he's doing this. But you can see how that would be super bad if that had happened. So no big deal, we kill the Goliath. We're going to fast forward here, kill the Prideful with the guy that was CC'd. So I pull the CC'd mob and kill him with the Prideful. Normally in Pridefuls as Brewmaster, I usually, if the healer's having any trouble at all, I will use Celestial Brew, especially when the Prideful is low. And this is one of those scenarios where, so you can see this is the countdown, right? The little half circle that's above that, that's the countdown for my buff. So the buff is going to be gone soon, and so I'm going to want to purify. I was at red, but even if I had been at green, I would have wanted to purify there to refresh the duration of that buff and add a stack to it. And so once the Prideful gets kind of low, depending on how many stacks I farmed, yeah, I use it here because I've got 2 mobs going. But using Celestial Brew during Pride definitely helps the healer out. You just take a lot less damage, you don't have to worry as much, and Celestial Brew is so quick to reset that you really don't have to worry too much about it. Like you can see here, that 30-second cooldown is like nothing. It's like already almost back up just from resetting off of just normal rotational stuff. So Monk, I think Brewmaster is not my favorite tank, and then Touch of Death too. Touch of Death's so nice as the tank to kill Prides. Brewmaster's not my favorite tank personally, but I do think they're maybe the best designed tank in the game right now. Like, I don't love their game plan as much as I love other tanks' game plan, like overall, but their game plan is so true to, I think, their design intent. And everything just fits so well. It doesn't jive with me as much as other tanks, but I do really like it. And I think for what I think Blizzard's trying to go for, I think everything just feels so smooth. It feels like it just plays how they're supposed to. So we're gonna keep going with 4-man here. Kill this boss. There's really not much to talk about on this boss. Basically, you want to look at Kirin Tara. When she gets full slash, you should be able to get every other overhead slash with a Celestial Brew. So this is the one where I didn't because I Celestial Brewed the first overhead slash, and so now I'm going to go into Red Stagger, so no big deal. You just cleanse that as soon as you can, which I'm a little slow right now. There it goes. You get your 3 little stacks. Heal yourself with Expel Harm. No big deal. Brewmaster is so good. I mean, the fact that they can... I know it's not Tyrannical week, but like it's a 16. I'm only 216 eye level, which, well, 216 is actually not bad. The fact that they can just like invalidate that mechanic and tank it without even needing to think about really using anything is just so good. Like Brewmaster is so good at certain fights. But at any rate, yeah, you know, you move around. Oh yeah, no, I did actually want to talk about, actually, I'm glad I didn't skip this. So when Kirintara flies up, like she is right now, there are times when you will lose. You can see I'm getting a little low on my stat count here. There are times when you will lose timer on your Celestial Brew buff, right? And so you want to make sure that you have damage staggered. And this is like the most awkward thing about this mechanic, is that you would think, well, you're at 6 and the debuff is about to run out. So, you know, just hit Purifying Brew and add a stack. But because I have 0 stagger, I cannot use Purify. It won't let you. And so even though I would want to do that, I would want to just burn a Purify to make sure I kept my stack, I can't because I don't have any stagger to Purify. So this is really silly, but you actually want to intentionally take damage. And so you see I'm going to walk into this spear. That's going to let me take just a tiny, tiny bit of green stagger, which I then purified and refreshed the buff so that I don't go back down to 1 or 0 stacks. I want to keep that up because now if I maintain that, when Kirintara comes down again, like she is, now when I go to Celestial Brew, I'm going to have a big, fat 8 or 9 or 10 stack Celestial Brew to absorb this damage from the hit coming in, rather than and you can see that was, you know, like 80% of my health bar. If I hadn't have done that, it would have only been about this much. So that's a really important thing about playing Brewmaster that I just see a lot of Brewmasters don't pay attention to. And that's super duper important. At any rate, that's pretty much this boss, so we're just going to boom, 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 and go on to the next mobs here. We're still 4-manning this dungeon. So I try to do a baby pull here because I know we're down a man, and I'm not super confident. Well, in general, my monk is rusty, and then also, like I was just saying a minute ago, my monk versus bleeds, I'm like super not confident about because I'm not Kyrian. I can't cleanse them. We don't have a paladin to bot me. I'm super scared. But one of the shaman is like, nah, fuck that shit, bruh. And he just rips the other guys out. And I'm like, oh shit. And now this is bad because this is one of the worst things about, I think, the way monks deal threat, like I was talking about before with regard to just the awkwardness of Cake Smash and the way it hits. Like, I wish Cake Smash was a targeting reticle on the ground. Honestly, I think it would just be better. It would just be a better move if I could if you just placed it on the ground. I think people would probably hate to be spamming that all the time, but I personally would like it. But in addition to that, if you've already done the Cake Smash into Breath of Fire combo, like I did on these 3 mobs, and then Breath of Fire is on cooldown when the new mobs come out, that's just another layer of like your threat sucking. Because you can Cake Smash, which does a lot, but you can't put the Breath of Fire dot on them because Breath of Fire is on cooldown. And so you're just kind of at the mercy of like, well, I'll put up Rushing Jade Wind and Spinning Crane Kick, and hopefully it all does well. So I put this down. It's kind of a waste doing, well, it's a total waste actually, doing Ring of Peace there. I hadn't noticed when I did this that he put down the Earth Elemental. So if I had, I wouldn't have Ring of Peace. But I thought they were going to follow me, and I wanted to just bump them away to avoid getting any bleeds while I picked up this guy, since apparently we're getting everything. And so he does have Earth Elemental down, but unfortunately I am not quite as high up on threat as I would have liked to have been, based on me running over to grab the other mob. The warrior is going absolutely bonkers, and I think he's going to rip and die. Yeah. And so that's on me. I should have focused more on threat there. That's, again, Monk Rust, being Night Fae. There's a lot of factors there that some of it are my play, some of it are just having less threat because I'm Night Fae. But at any rate, warrior goes down. Unfortunate. In my defense, I suppose I didn't call for this pull. So you can see here these bleeds. These bleeds with red stagger, the dot you take is just like absolutely insane. When you get to red stagger with like 4 or so plus bleeds, it's insane. Doing that and not being Kyrian is really spicy. I wouldn't recommend it. I definitely think Kyrian is the play if you're going to be a Brewmaster at this point. even though Necrolord is really, really good, the Kyrian normal ability is so good, and File for dealing with bleeds is just something that, like, monks don't have any way to wipe stuff like that natively, so it's just really important. He's kind of stuck in Sanguine here, so I'm trying to max range him. I wish my party was doing the same, but they're not. Okay, luckily he does target me, and then gets out of the Sanguine. So I'm going to put some line of sights up here, but unfortunately this guy ports to someone who's standing on that line of sight marker, and then dies, and the Sanguine goes on the marker, so I'm going to have to move a little bit, but no big deal. Run up, grab these 3 mobs. We're just going to fast forward a little bit here. And so I pull him back here because there's a Sanguine back where the other marker was. Burn these 3 guys down. Pretty much easy peasy. Nothing really much to talk about. Kind of skip through there as well. Boop, boop, boop. Again, we're still formatting this, so we're making pretty good time, all things considered. So then we pull the squad leader pack, and this one actually I was definitely worried about because just having only 4 DPS, this squad leader is going to take a really long time. And again, just because I'm a little less confident in my monk, I'm a little scared of, like, maybe I'll run out of cooldowns, maybe things won't line up right, but it's actually no problem at all. Honestly, the warrior and the Ellie shaman are just killing it, 2-manning this, and even the look at the healer. The healer's doing so much damage. Dude, can we talk about really quick? One of the biggest lies in World of Warcraft is that Resto Shaman and Resto Druids can't deal damage. Everybody's so hung up on the fact that, like, well, if you're a Holy Paladin or a Disc Priest, you deal so much more damage. And, like, okay, Holy Paladin, Venthyr, that's like a whole different, yeah, I mean, nothing. Venthyr Holy Paladin is busted. I'm not talking about that. But if you're talking about, like, most healers, even Disc and Holy Paladin, if they're in a really stressful healing situation, they're not putting out their maximum damage. Because, like, Holy Paladin won't be able to spend their Holy Power on Shield of the Righteous to do more AoE, for instance. So, while it is true that Holy Paladins and Disc Priests can deal damage while healing, it's not even close to their max damage. Maybe Disc Priest, maybe. But even that's iffy. And so the fact that, like, Resto Shaman and Resto Druid can only deal their damage while they aren't healing doesn't really matter very much at all, in my opinion. Because A, Resto Shaman and Resto Druid both have better overall healing than a Holy Paladin or a Disc Priest, especially in M+. Like, their healing is just better. It just is. So the fact that they can't do it simultaneously doesn't really matter as much because they can pump and then, like, oops, I need to heal now. It's more just like mode switching, right? And I'm not saying, like, Holy Paladin's not the best healer in the game or Holy Paladin isn't overpowered. They absolutely are. But I think people really focus way too much on the fact that, like, oops, I'm a Resto Druid or a Resto Shaman and I can't deal damage. Total horseshit. And this dude's like 2k IO. He's a baller, honestly, and good on him because he's just casting, he's just going ham, dealing damage, and that's so big. This healer damage that we have is so big since we're a DPS down. And props on me for being on my crappy monk alt that I'm rusty with and actually sucking a small enough amount that this guy can't afford to deal some damage. Good job, me. So anyway, we kill the squad leader, which is what you want to do because the squad leader's got that buff that makes everybody around them take less damage. So that's good. I'm going to line of sight to try and get away from the skirmisher. But this is a little iffy because now that I'm lining, he's going to run through this puddle. So I'm like, maybe I'll come out here. I'm going to try and push him away. But then Ring of Peace gets stuck on the fucking wall because World of Warcraft is a very cool video game. And in addition to that, the fucking warrior rips the pride. I am winning at life. I am a pro gamer. But no worries. We recover. I pick up the skirmisher. Skirmisher thankfully leaps to someone in an area that is conducive, and we can go ahead and focus on him. Cool fact about pride, it does not interact with any weekly affixes. So you don't have to worry about pride being stuck in Sanguine. I pull him away just to make sure we're not having to deal with it. Like, you know, melee might need to move, and I don't want him to have to stand in that. But the pride will not actually heal off of the Sanguine. So then we're going to kill the pride here. I'm just going to... I think I'd probably touch a death, would be my guess. Boop. No, I don't. I'm actually shocked I don't touch a death him. I wonder why I didn't. I absolutely should have. There's really no reason for me to save it there. So this is cool. You can give yourself Tiger's Lust and then roll off the ledge, and you go super duper far. And then it's actually quicker than clicking the angel. And that's actually, as far as I'm aware, quicker than even a Demon Hunter can go, because Demon Hunter wings are much slower than that. I want to watch this part with the Ether Divers, because either I didn't mitigate, or the healer didn't cleanse me correctly, and I think the answer is that the healer did not cleanse me correctly. So the thing about these other divers is that they do that venom thing, which one of them just got interrupted. He's doing a stun. But the way this venom thing works is, like, you don't want to cleanse it as a healer when there's, like, one of them, because then the others will cast, and then you can't cleanse when there's multi-stack. And so I think that's what this guy did. Let's see what happens here. So now they're all casting. I have 4. Oh, no, he just doesn't cleanse me. He's just slow. Yeah. Holy shit. I'm going to bet maybe he was typing. I don't know. But he didn't cleanse me before that, so he just straight up didn't cleanse. You can see how fucking strong. Look at this. When I get 4 stacks, look how fast this kills me. So 4. I'm at half. I think I get... Yeah, so I eat 1 Expel Harm. It ticks down to there again. And... Holy shit. Did I eat a Quake there too? Maybe I ate a Quake too. Hang on. Was it Quake plus the tick? No. No. That's just the tick. That's insane. So what I always do as a healer on this poll is I always, like, you don't really need to heal on this poll at all normally, right? And so I'm always looking at, like, when the casts go off. And as soon as I see, like, and unfortunately I didn't kick the last group. Could I have kicked it? Let's see. Yes, I should have kicked here, the Warrior should have kicked here, and the Ellie Shaman should have kicked here. So that's the other part of this. It should have, we had 3 kicks. This should have only been 1 stack. But because none of us kicked because we're all bad, and because the healer cleansed really late, he waited a really long time, like 3 globals. So it's like 3.5 seconds to cleanse me. Because of all those things, I almost got imploded from the other diver stacks. That's so crazy. Yeah, I could have bring a piece to them. So we could have dealt with that better. So here again, my threat is really shitty. So let's see who I hit when I come in here. I target the skirmisher in the back and I cake smash. I have not cake smashed at all. I've only done spinning crane kick. Maybe that's my problem. No, and there it is. And then this is exactly what I'm talking about. I keg smash the Inquisitor, and none of these guys get hit. This is the worst thing about Brewmaster Monk. See the keg? Ready for it to blow up and hit no one? Boom. Blows up. They don't get hit. Maybe this guy did. That's the whole issue right there. Because what I want to be able to do personally is, like, hit keg smash and then put a reticle down in the middle of them. But because it's targeted, I would have needed to click this guy, and then it would have hit all 3 people. So very silly, very bad quality of life, but something you absolutely have to be aware of as a monk. Otherwise, this happens, and there's no threat, and everything sucks. So I cake smash again soon, hopefully. No? That's the other problem, is that I have 2 cake smash charges. That should have been the first thing I did. I think I prioritized Blackout and Tiger Palm, which is a bad move, so I should have cake smashed twice by now. But yeah, same issue. So you can see the squad leader. He does not have the cake smash buff or the Breath of Fire buff. And so that's exactly why I'm having trouble maintaining threat right now. So just super awkward stuff. Sometimes that's, like, again, my least favorite thing about Brewmaster. And it's a small price to pay, considering their strengths. But it's a price that I feel like they don't need to pay. It's just, like, a weirdly designed ability that's super awkward. So anyway, I call out Dave here. Go ahead and put on my Fort Brew too, because this pack is a motherfucker, and it is Fort Week, but we've almost got the squad leader down, and that means things are about to get a lot better because they'll all have less absorb. Use Ring of Peace there to get out of the Sanguine. One of the best things. Ring of Peace is just so good. One of the best moves in the game overall. Just such a good move. And then, yeah, pretty much DPS these guys down. Just going to skip forward again. I ask if we have a Kyrian, and then the Warrior says something like, "We did." Which I thought was really funny. So the other monk was the Kyrian. Really nice thing about rushing Jade Wind, since it's 100% uptime, which means you can just keep hitting it, it'll never go away. You can always have it around you, which means you can just put it up and run into wherever these stupid stealth claws are, And it's basically almost impossible for them to open up and stun you, which is huge because for me, like as a prot paladin, when I do this, I fucking hate these mobs because if I put Consecrate down and they don't happen to walk into it, I'm just fucked. And I have to wait 5 more seconds to try and guess again with Consecrate. And if I guess wrong and they stun me, you pretty much have to bubble or you die on 4 weeks, which is just so dumb. It's so dumb. But, you know, no big deal. We'll go through these, and I'm going to skip forward. Go to the other side, and then same deal here. Just put up your Rushing Jade Wind and walk forward. You can also throw Keg Smash at this dude because they're usually by him, and that'll bust him out. So just another example of just a really big minor thing that makes just monks have such a good strength versus something, you know, like a prot paladin, or really probably more indicative of prot paladins having a significant issue, I would say, than monks having a strength per se. But so I think I had to put up a really low Celestial Brew there. Let's watch that again. Only like 4 stacks. Oh no, it was 5. Yeah, there. So I could have done that better if I had purified it first. It would have been an 8 stack, which would have made a pretty big difference. I just reacted to being low and hit Celestial, but I could have probably fit in 1 more button press there to get an even bigger shield. Would have helped, but no big deal. This just really sucks so much. Look, red stagger and 4 bleed stacks, dude. Look at how fast my health goes down. It's crazy. It's so crazy, man. 6 stacks, I'm out of Purify. This healer is shitting his pants 100%. I used a healing potion there. I'm manually healing myself. I'm trying to run. Bleeds versus a Brewmaster. Tell me what I'm doing wrong if you have a trick that I'm not using, because woo lordy. So finally they die. I have 7 stacks up, but Celestial Brew comes back. Well, they're not all dead, but most of them. But I have Celestial Brew up now, and so this is going to eat that bleed. But look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at how fast. This is like an... What was that, an 8 or a 10 stack? Oh my goodness gracious. God bless Celestial Brew. Where is it? Come on, do it. There it is. So yeah, full 10, right? Full 10. I'm about to activate it. Watch how fast this goes down with 7 stacks of this fucking dot and red stagger. That is insane. That is an absolutely insane amount of damage. So anyway, yeah, that's the scariest thing about playing Monk, in my opinion. And I don't know another thing to do other than kite more. But I personally have a really hard time kiting, not because of the act of kiting. Monks are very good at kiting. They're probably second or third best at kiting. So Demon Hunter's indisputably number 1. And I would say probably Monk or Druid is the next best at kiting. But honestly, Warrior could be in there too. Basically everyone that isn't a Paladin and a Death Knight is pretty okay at kiting. So I can kite fine, but the problem is once I get the bleed on me, I'm just like, fuck, like shit's awful. Plus, again, because we're down 1 DPS, we've literally been 4-manning this the entire time. I'm also spending more time in combat. Things are spending more time alive, and therefore I'm taking more damage, and so that's stressing me harder. So that's a factor here as well. Thankfully, the Pat here is kind and isn't in the way, because while maybe if we had a full 5-man group with Pride, I might have decided to double pull that, which would have been spicy. With 4-man, there's just no way I would have wanted to do that. Shaman, yeah, puts his stun totem down right away. I still have my stun. I think I'm going to save it for the next group. No, I stun here. Never mind. I do. I thought I would have saved it. Because I still have kick. Yeah, I probably should have just kicked instead. But, you know, no big deal. So then just pull them away again. Same deal here. You want to make sure they're away. And this is a really nice thing about Ring of Peace is that you can just put that on him. And because he's immune to Ring of Peace, they will never be able to get in there no matter what. And you'll never have to worry about it. So that's really sick. I'm just trying to make extra sure this dude does not end up in a Sanguine Puddle. Cool. And then the monk is back now, and I say, welcome back, and so now we're on a full 5 man. So that was about probably 40% of this dungeon, I would say, because we're not quite to the second boss yet. So quite a bit. Pride's just about to run out, but we have our 5th DPS, and so things are going to go, or excuse me, our 5th member, our 3rd DPS. Things are going to go a lot quicker, And you can see here how close the threat can be on my Monk. And again, some of that's because of my Covenant and gear, and some of that's just because I think rotationally I have probably things to optimize. My cat is just meowing at me. I apologize if she's coming through the microphone. So pretty standard pull here. Once we kill the squad leader, nothing really much to talk about. We're going to fast forward here. And I ask about the spear. The monk says he got it, and then I say, please spear right away. But he doesn't. And that makes this pull extra spicy. Because if he had speared right away, it would allow me some time to build threat. It means we're getting damage while they're all grouped up, right? But since he comes in and stuns, he's like, well, I guess I won't spear. And he just kind of chills. And I kind of hate this. I don't know why he waits so long to spear. Because now I'm like, well, fuck. I guess I better blow Dave. Because I guess maybe he's not going to spear. I don't know what's going on. So I need to blow Dave to survive. And this Praetor jumps out of the group. I'm like, all right, well, okay. And I ate a slam there. And this is another thing that makes this pull so hard. There's so much going on, right? And then, like, this is also what makes, for me, sometimes Monk harder to play, even though Monk is easy in a lot of the ways that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. What makes them harder to play as a tank is just the total mental stack of looking at everything that's going on the screen. And so I'm like, oh shit, I gotta blow Dave, because he's not spearing apparently. This dude rips aggro, so I gotta try and grab this guy, and I'm not thinking about crashing strike, which is pointed right at me. And so what I need to be doing is moving over to the left and avoiding this, but I don't. And I just kind of chill because I'm trying to get this threat. And he just slams me right in the face. And that hurts like a motherfucker. Luckily, I do have Celestial Brew. Would have been better if I headed up initially, obviously. But I wasn't expecting to get chunked because I didn't see that ability. Hopefully I put it up soon. What am I doing? There we go. It's up. And we're just fighting so hard. Something is ripping like every second here. This is another reason that spear would have just been so nice on pull for me to be able to build up that threat. And so now he spears. Just kind of sucks because I still have Dave up and I have Fortifying Brew running, and now the mobs are stunned. So just keep that in mind when you use the spear for your tank. Like, if you use the spear at a time that overlaps with their defensives, it's just going to make everything a lot harder. And then, not to mention, this guy is still over here just chilling, doing whatever the fuck he wants, not getting hit. So I don't know why the hell this guy took so long to put that spear down. I don't understand that, especially since I called spear right away. I don't know if he just didn't read it. I don't know if he's not paying attention. I'm not sure. So I got a kite super grossly now. So that was a monk port, if you didn't notice. So I put my port down back there somewhere. Can't even see it. It's back there somewhere. Yeah, it's really hard to see. I don't know where it is exactly, but I'm going to activate it. There it is. Boom. It's on the bottom of the stairs there. And just trying to kite and run away as long as I can, because I know I don't have shit left until I get the Celestial Brew up in like 5 seconds. And kiting, you know, is not so bad on a week like this, because you gotta kind of move to get him out of Sanguine anyway. And I'm just ring a piecing, because I don't want to fucking deal with this dude. He's gonna put that mean bleed on me, and I don't want it. So I did let my stacks drop from 8, so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It can be hard to keep track of, though, when you're in the middle of shit, but you can see here I totally could have purified that and put myself up to 10 and refreshed the duration. So that's a misplay. Oop, there it goes. But, you know, no big deal. So then we're going to go ahead and fight the Pride here. I assume I'm going to touch a death it. Just skipping around, like I said. We've all been through this before. Nothing much to talk about. And it looks like I am saving my Celestial Brew for the boss, which probably isn't necessary. But yeah, I touch a death it. And then we're going to go on to Ventanax. Not really much to say here or look at as far as tanking this boss goes on Brewmaster. Pretty much the same thing I do on every other tank. Let him do Dark Stride. You move slightly to the right or the left. Pull him right next to the other black thing, because that stays from wherever he was at when he Dark Strided. Make sure to dodge the blind. It's a little bit awkward while you're right by the black ball initially, but it pays off in spades, in my opinion, for when he does the recharge later. However, I will say, because it is Fort Week, and because this group actually does have good DPS, you could certainly argue that this wasn't necessary, because he's almost dead by the time it's relevant. But normally, if it's Tyrannical Week, or if it's a high enough key, or you don't have really high DPS, you're good. So here's how I do that. So when he does You leave him right next to the first Dark Stride. It doesn't have to be like on it, but you want to leave it nearby. And this is so that later on, both the things that shoot the balls are coming from the same spot. And that means everybody can go over here and you'll have like way better visibility. What you don't want, in my opinion, what I hate that a lot of tanks do, I fucking hate this. A lot of tanks do it. They move away from the first ball. And so what happens is like they'll put the first ball here. They'll move like over here because they're like, oh, I got to get away from that black ball. It's bad. And then when he does the recharge and the balls start going ape shit, there's more angles, right? There's more angles that the balls are coming from. But if you keep these two close together, they're not really, you can see they're only shooting out one thing every so often. It's not really that bad. So he's going to Dark Stride. What I do is when he does that Dark Stride, you know as soon as he does that Dark Stride, you don't need to wait for the boss to come to you and then drag him. As soon as he did that Dark Stride, it's putting the ball here, you just go to where the boss Dark Strided to if it's on, because it always picks a range. Just go there. And then just stay. And always turn around. And so this is what I'm talking about, where now you have a clear view of where these balls are at when he does recharge. But he doesn't even do... So yeah, it's a great strat, but we didn't even need it. I probably could have. This would be a good example because our DPS is so high, and I guess because it's only a 16, it was completely unnecessary. And this would be an example of when splitting them, I guess, would have been fine. But I usually just do the proper strat because who knows how good your DPS is or isn't at any given key, and I just kind of do that. So we're going to skip forward now. Yeah, I'm like, man, it feels like we have about 20% more damage. That's wild. Wonder why that is. It's just so funny that we... we finally have the other DPS spot back. So I think this dude forgets to get the spear here, which kind of sucks. No big deal. But we won't have it for the last boss because he forgets to get it, and he's our only Kyrian. Zing. So pull this guy. I'm just going to skip through here. This is whatever. It's one mob. Boom, boom, boom. Go up, and we're going to invis and run to the boss. And the warrior does not have invis pots. And so I thought he said he needed to die. But I guess he can skip here. I guess he can run to the right here, maybe? I don't know how he did it. I didn't see what he did. But he ended up not needing to be rezzed, despite not having an invis potion. But anyway, I'm going to pull these guys to the pillar over here. I'm just going to skip through here. As I say waiting on res. I actually waste a little time here, because I'm like, well, I'm waiting on res. And the warrior's like, no, just pull, and then I'll come in. So I don't... Yeah, he did. He just ran right in between, basically, that and that. So that's good to know. I actually didn't know that. I didn't know you could skip that without invis if I pull him. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. Well, sorry, I knew you could do it if you went around the side and came over back here. I didn't know you could do it from that vantage point. So cool strat on these that this group doesn't do that I wish more people were aware of is like all you have to do is you all stay in a clump, right? And then on Sanguine, a lot of people are like, oh my god, they're just sitting in Sanguine, they're throwing. No. You just, when one dies, everybody moves to one of the four sides of this pillar. So what we should be doing is, like, once that one dies, everyone should be moving with me. Everyone should come over here. But they don't. They stay over there, and it's fine because their DPS is high and we kill them. But if this was a higher key relevant to this group's, relative to this group's DPS, that'd be a bigger problem. And you'll see they're gonna do it again here, where this guy dies, and we should all be moving either here or here. Mostly just with the tank, right? So move over to the side, and then come over. But everybody's like splitting up, and it's fine because that gets them out of the Sanguine. But if we were all together, we could all line of sight, and then they'd all run in again. And then we could do the same thing on the next face of this pillar. So like, if everyone was where I'm at, they would all be running in and being clumped and getting cleaved down with this guy. So not the biggest deal in the world because, like I said, this group has way more DPS than it needs, apparently. These guys are just really solid, honestly, DPS players, like super solid. Like, obviously, we've been 4-manning a 16, so totally solid players, but doesn't mean there's not room to improve. There's something really funny on this boss. I'm going to skip most of it because this boss is not super relevant. Basically, you just kind of, you know, run through your standard mitigation cycle and have people put the orbs in the back. So I say, please put the orbs around his butt, you know, that way it's easy for me to eat. And I'm used to doing this on my paladin, where I have an immune. And if I'm on my demon hunter or my monk, there's almost always someone else who has an immune. And maybe the warrior could have spell reflected. I'm not actually sure if spell reflect works or not. But this is super funny. So I'm like, well, no one has an immune, so I guess I'll just eat them all as a tank. And I have no idea how much damage these do. I have absolutely no idea how much damage these do. Because I always eat them with bubble on my paladin. I eat 3 and then I activate bubble. It wipes the other 3 and then I never get any of the stack from the other ones. So I'm like, well, whatever. I'll have Celestial Brew up, right? So I go through my resets and I'm like, I'll eat most, but try and eat 1 or 2 if possible, probably. But then nobody eats any. Nobody eats any. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, put Celestial Brew on, get myself a big ass shield. It couldn't be that bad, right? I'm just gonna absorb all these. But what sucks is that like every time you eat 1, it not only adds a new stack, it refreshes the duration. So I get like 6 or 7. I'm like, well, those ate through my shield. I could eat like 3 more. No problem. And they just fucking, look at this. They just chew me up. And I'm like, well, I am not a paladin. That is not a thing I should do. Luckily, it doesn't matter because it's Fort Weak under DPSSI and they just fucking kill the boss. And I'm like, good job, me. My sacrifice will be remembered. But I'm just not used to doing that mechanic. Like, I guess normally most groups, if they don't have an absorb, or an immunity rather, I guess they split it. And I was like, well, you know, nobody was eating them. I'll just eat wall. Anyway, then I say mid, right, left, and this healer's like, what? Mid, right, left? No way, dude. Go. He's like, mid, left, right. And I'm like, whatever. Because honestly, I hate that. But I'm not healing. And this really is healer's preference. I think whatever order your healer wants to do is probably the order you should do. But I hate doing mid, left, right. I hate those damn spears. They annoy the crap out of me. I'd way rather have more persistent healing. But, you know, I'm not the one healing it, so that's fine. So we do that. I'm going to skip through this guy. He just does slam, walk through. It's super boring. We do the right guy. Oh, I skipped. Did I skip? Oh, sorry. We did the left guy. Yeah, that's right. I'm used to doing the right one next. That's why I was confused. So he does charge spear. And the reason I don't like this is because, like, if you do him first, there's just a lot of spears that end up being up. So we have 1 down there. Now there's 2, 3 spears. So it's not too bad. I mean, you can just dodge them. It's not really that much healing. But then when you do this one, he's going to be throwing spears this whole time with the other mechanic. And then you also have to deal with, yeah, the charge, which I don't like. Whereas if you go the other way and spear him, he doesn't charge nearly as much. But I guess at the end of the day, it mostly just matters, like, when you use the spear that you have for an item, and we don't have that spear. So that's really, I guess, the biggest deal. So not the end of the world. One thing I always do on this guy is every time he does this charge, I go to where the last charge was. So not these spears, but this little black puddle. You go to where the black puddle was because it always disappears as soon as he does the next one. And so in order to keep from it being like too crazy with movement, I always just stand and turn around. And then I'll move away from, like, you can see, just put a spear down. I do need to move soon, probably to make this less confusing. But then when he does the next that, you can just move to where the last one was. Which, yeah, and this is exactly why I don't like this order, though, right? Like, there's just so many more spears when you do it this way. Look at all those spears. It's just like, and I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm just gonna leave. And then I think I touch a death this guy because, yeah, it's fucking awful. I'm like, I think I said God. I said God bless touch of death or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, then we do the prideful, pretty standard stuff. No touch of death for the pride because I did it on the ad, which is normal. And then we kill the boss, and then we'll use Bloodlust phase 2 because there's really no point in overlapping on this boss. So here's basically how you decide whether you should Bloodlust with Pride or not. If the boss has a phasing mechanic, you probably shouldn't Bloodlust with Pride because odds are the Pride alone is enough for you to push the boss quicker than usual into the phase. And then once he phases, your buffs are just ticking down for no reason. And so that's why on a boss like this who phases and then you can't hurt them, it's better to not overlap Pride and Bloodlust together. And it's better to save Pride and use it once Bloodlust is gone after the phase is complete. So anyway, pretty standard stuff here. Push him through. He's going to do the phase and go up, and you just get ready. One thing you can do as a monk is put your teleport down near this thing. So that's what I just did a second ago. So you put your port down, and then now that way when you grab one of the orbs, you can just port back instantly. And then if you need to, now this group has 2 shaman and a warrior and a monk, so mobility is not a problem for this group. But if you had like a bunch of paladins and priests, it'd be really nice to have saved that and then still have like Tiger's Lust in your rolls to get more orbs if you need to, because you can literally get 2 orbs as fast as a slow class can get 1. This dude is a super quick clicker. I normally don't like that because other people fuck it up more often than not. He just beats me to the click both times. But he doesn't fuck up the spear. So as long as people don't fuck up the spear, I really don't care. But a lot of people do, and that's kind of triggering. Luckily, that doesn't happen. We blow Bloodlust, and then just going through the paces here. Boom, boom, boom. He phases through. Grab the orbs. Do the little teleport trick again. And I say, damn, quick draw McGee over here, because the monk clicks it again for me. And bing, bang, boom. This boss dies. Nothing really much to watch, so we're just going to fast forward, and that's that. So I think this would have been probably a +2 if we had actually had 5 people the whole time. So for me being kind of rusty on the monk, I don't feel too bad. This is definitely a good group. The healer is like 2k IO, but actually everyone else is only like 1400. So they're really not that high IO. They're just solid players doing good DPS and doing things right. And so we were able to get this as a +1. We'll call this a 4.5-man dungeon instead of a 5-man dungeon. So I haven't done anything with the monk, so I hope you guys enjoyed the Brewmaster commentary. Yeah, I might do some more, but this is kind of my tertiary character at this point, so I haven't played him in a while, so I thought I'd have some fun and fuck around with it. So at any rate, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will catch us next time. Have a good one. See ya.